bless you.
Some of you again.
You're welcome to.
Welcome now to the officially named Art and Soul Theology and Arts Lunch Hour. Yay! I'm so excited. And I'm Tiffany. I'm the Director of Theology and Arts for those of you that I haven't met or gotten to know very well yet. You do get one colloquia credit for being here today, and so there are these sheets of paper to make sure that your name is on one of them. There are 3 different ones, but your name only needs to appear once. So is there anybody else that needs to sign? So pass those around and make sure that people get their name. Anybody else? Okay. Today I am excited to introduce to you somebody that some of you know very well. Elaine Blanchard. Reverend Elaine Blanchard is an ordained United Church of Christ pastor, and she is a teacher here at the seminary as well as being an alum of the seminary. She graduated in May of 2000. She teaches the preacher as storyteller with Dr. Hudson. And so how many of you, raise your hand if you've had that class, Preacher Storytelling? Oh, well, okay.
Right now.
And you will want to take that because it's an excellent class. And Elaine is a storyteller. That is who she is, that is what she does, and that is the way in which her art is expressed. She's a storyteller who gives our youth all across the city, in schools, the Memphis College of Art, in all sorts of places. I just lost them. Friends for Life. She's worked her storytelling magic with all kinds of books. She's my friend, and she and I work with Voices of the South, a local theater company. And last year, a local documentarian wanted to document a process that she has been involved in for many years called Prison Stories. And so as a storyteller and as a minister, Elaine has gone into the local prison here, our women's prison here in Shelby County, and she has helped those women tell their own stories. And what happens with those stories is that they're brought to life by local actors. They're brought to the stage and they're shown to the women as well as to local audiences. I shouldn't tell too much. I'm sure the documentary is going to share all of that with you. But it's a wonderful ministry that she has had, and she continues to be an entrepreneur and think of new ways to use storytelling in order to help people in all kinds of life situations, whether that's helping our loved ones as they slip away into dementia and as they move towards death, or our women in our prison system, our friends at Friends for Life, our homeless community. She uses storytelling to help all of these folks. So I want to give Elaine Blanchard a big welcome, and then I'll turn it over to her. She's going to show us the documentary, but then she will also have time for question and answers. So that what I hope that our Art and Soul times are about are times for us to engage in conversation with artists so that we can see the ways in which art intersects faith. And so Elaine is graciously agreed to be here to help us to do that today. So thank you, Elaine, and we welcome you.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Tiffany. I'm happy to be invited to be with you today. I am always happy to tell stories and to talk about the power of personal storytelling. I'm a storyteller, and so are you. We are all human beings, and so we came into this world with the capacity to make narrative of our lives. We get up in the morning and we find we got holes in our shoes, and we're just wondering, well, how did that happen? Those were good shoes. And then by the time we have lunch, we're telling our friends about the shoes. We love those shoes, and now they got holes in them, and every little thing that goes on with us, we make story out of it. That's the way we reassure ourselves that this thing that we do living. One day we're born, one day we die, and in between we live. And we reassure ourselves and each other that this thing called life has meaning by sharing stories with each other. When we stop, look, and listen to each other, we say to the other, you matter. Your life has meaning. It's no small thing to listen to another human being. It's the way we know that we are loved. So storytelling is something that I do. I feel called to do it. I tried to do other things. I tried to be a nurse. I tried to be a local pastor. I failed miserably. The only thing I can do is tell stories about how many things I failed at. This is the way God called me here. It's like bumper cars, you know. I bumped into something and failed there. I bumped into something, and now I'm kind of rolling smoothly with this storytelling thing. So here I am, and I appreciate your being here, your attention. I'll tell you a story. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida. We lived right downtown, next door, the First Church of the Nazarene, where my daddy was the preacher. We lived downtown, not in a neighborhood where there were kids riding bikes up and down the sidewalk or anybody skating on the street. No, it was just us and the commercial district and the church in between. Seemed like everybody in the world had some place to be and something important to do, except for me. I started my day sitting on the front steps. People would come, park in front of our house at a slant, get out of their cars and go to work. Right across the street was Junior's Used Chevrolet. Next door to that was Smith's Gulf Station. On this side of the street was the church, Kilgore's Feed and Seed, Woolworth's Five and Dime, and Johnson's Home Hardware. I loved Mr. Johnson. He owned the store, so he came to work with a dress shirt and a suit on. So when I chased him all the way to Johnson's Home Hardware, telling him everything I knew and everything I wanted to be, he kept me at arm's length in case I'd get him dirty. Then he'd pat me on the head. I'd go back, sit on the steps, and wait for something else to happen. Now, there was one other house on our block. It was right behind our house. Big, yellow, two-story, Victorian frame. I could see it towering up over there on the other side of our back fence. The fence was thick with morning glory vines, so you couldn't see through it. And I didn't really much care about that house. You know why? Because there weren't any kids that lived there. So what did I care about that big old yellow house back there? Well, one day, my mom was hanging clothes on the clothesline, and I was out in the backyard, swinging on the pole at the end of the line, singing a song. I heard something. It was on the other side of that fence. I got down, parted those morning glory vines, and looked. There was a woman over there. She was down on her hands and knees, had a big hat on her head, shading her face from the sun. She had a little shovel in her hand, had plants, she was putting them in the ground. I said, "Who are you?" She said, "Well, I'm Dr. Rhoda Abbott. What's your name?" I said, "Well, I'm Elaine Blanchard." She said, "Well, it's good to know your name, Elaine. I've heard you over there. We ought to get to know each other." on account of I just retired from teaching at the university, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this backyard. Now I'm putting tomatoes in right here. You like tomatoes? Well, sometimes. What else do you plant? Well, I'm putting cucumbers here and squash here. I'm going to run sweet peas up that trellis over there. And right there where the sun's shining, I'm going to make a rose bed. And under that cherry tree over there, I'm going to put a bench so I can sit back here and watch my backyard develop. I said, well then, if you're going to be doing all that, Dr. Abbott, then somebody needs to be keeping an eye on you. And so I did. Every day, back at that fence, parting those morning glory lines, looking to see where that Dr. Abbott was and what she was doing. We talked. One day, I came out our kitchen door and looked back there at that fence. Dr. Abbott was at the fence and she was doing something. She had on thick gloves, a pair of wire pliers in her hands, and she was at that fence, snip, 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 snip. Ah, she was cutting the fence in two. I went running back there to tell her this is the kind of thing that can get you in really bad trouble, but she wasn't listening to me at all. I could see she hadn't asked for anybody's permission. She just kept on cutting that fence, and when she was through cutting it, she grabbed a hold of that wire and pulled that fence back. Then she pulled up morning glory vines, stomped down a few weeds, and stepped right into my backyard. Well, I just stepped into her backyard. She said, come with me. I did. I followed her. She had a big old wooden shed there in the corner of her yard. She opened the door. We looked in there, it's all dark and dusty. Big stack of smooth stones right there inside the shed. She picked up one of those stones. She said, you get one too. Well, I did. We went back to that hole she cut in the fence. She put her stone down, said, put yours there. I did. We went back. Two more stones. Good. She put hers down. I put mine down. We went back. Two more stones. She put hers down. I put mine down. We kept that up till pretty soon we were standing right at Dr. Abbott's kitchen door. She took her gloves off. Said, all right then. Now, that's the way you'll come to visit me every day. And so I did. Dr. Abbott! Yoo-hoo! Sometimes I'd find her on the front porch. She'd be sitting in the swing out there, just feeling the breeze. I'd get in the swing beside her. We'd watch the traffic go by on University Boulevard. Watch people walk by. Let me tell you, didn't anybody get by us without our talking about it. And sometimes I found Dr. Abbott in her library. She had a library in her house. A long room with books floor to ceiling on two long walls, and right in the middle was a red velvet couch, which we sat on knee to knee, and Dr. Abbott read to me until I learned to read, and then I read to her. Sometimes I'd find her upstairs in the corner of her house. She had a sewing room, windows on 2 walls, lots of warm sunlight pouring in the room. Dr. Abbott might be at the sewing machine, whirring away, or she might be sitting in a chair in the middle of the room, 2 knitting needles making something. I sat on a hassock in the middle of the room, and tall and tall and tall. And Dr. Abbott would say, But my favorite times of all were the times when I went over and found Dr. Abbott in the kitchen. Now, Dr. Abbott didn't buy her bread at the grocery store. Nope. She made her own bread. Make that bread, put it in the pan, put it in the oven, and then there was nothing left to do but just wait until the bread was ready to eat. So the 2 of us would sit in a green wicker rocking chair she had there in the kitchen, old cushions in it. We'd squeeze in together and rock. And just smell that bread baking. Sometimes we didn't say a word in the kitchen. We didn't need to. We were busy smelling. Thinking about how good it was going to be when that bread came out of the oven. Because Dr. Abbott would slice a piece off, a big piece. Give it to me, be all hot. You put the butter on it and melt all down. We'd just rock and feel. You know how good it was to be there. To have a friend. To have a neighbor. To have somebody who would cut a hole in the fence and make a way for me to step right into her life. And for her to step right into my life too. That's what we do for each other when we stop, look, and listen to each other. Dr. Abbott listened to what I had to say. And because she looked at me and listened to me, I thought the words I said mattered. And if the words that I say matter, then, well, I must matter too. It's a gift we have to give to each other. This business of sharing stories, being the teller and being the listener. We reassure each other. This business of living, it really matters. I'm going to show you a 27-minute film. The name of it is Inside Story. And the women that you'll see, this is from the 7th class of prison stories. It's a 4-month process at the Shelby County Jail, and it concludes with performances of the stories that I have heard women tell me over 4 months' time inside the jail. The first performance is in the jail for all the women in our county jail. We usually have about 500 women in our county jail. And it's for the staff and for the family members of the women who have participated in prison stories. And then the performance comes out of the jail and into a theater for public audiences to see the same performance. Welcome, I'm Elaine. Go that way and get yourself some refreshments and then just have a seat. I had no idea who I would meet when I said I want to come out to the jail and listen to people. I had no idea if they'd be willing to talk to me. I'm Elaine. I'm Carlita. Carlita, nice to meet you. But they are willing to talk to me. Now imagine that. Why?
It's just amazing to me that someone like her actually want to hear her my story. I'm in jail. Who am I? Why she want to hear my story?
I'm sick of being an inmate. I want to live my own life. I want to like myself, and I want to stop letting myself down.
I am so grateful that you have come, because the women whose stories you're hearing tonight are in the jail, aware that you are here listening to their stories. And that is amazing to them.
This is jail. You don't have things like this where people come in on the outside, care about what you've done, and want you to learn how to write it, and talk about it, and express it with different people.
He fought me one day and took my kids and said I couldn't ever leave him again. So that day I turned to him and had to do the worst thing I never wanted to do. So I ended up stabbing him, leaving him for dead, and I never returned to him again. Now he respects me as being the mother of his children.
If your pen runs out of ink, let me know. I'll give you another pen. If you run out of paper, that's wonderful because it means you're writing a lot, and I'll give you some more paper. I think writing is therapeutic, and I hope that one of the things that the women in the circle get from our time together is the experience of writing things out rather than acting it out. It's so much less dangerous to write about how you want to stab somebody than it is to actually pick up a knife and stab them.
I'm here for aggravated assault. I had fought with this girl. I was 9 months pregnant, and she had hit me in the eye. And we ended up fighting for like 20-25 minutes. And I got tired of fighting about me being pregnant, and I picked up a little small little pipe, and I had hit her with it like 10 times. And my charge carried 3 to 15 years in jail, but I was looked because it was my first offense, and they gave me 3 years at 30%.
My charges of voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault. One thing led to another, and someone ended up dead. Actually, the person that ended up dead wasn't my boyfriend. It was a young lady who was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I was fighting back. Yeah, I didn't just go stick the girl. I didn't just go stick her. No, we had a tussle and she got stuck.
And then it really
And
wasn't
don't you
funny
think it's
anymore.
funny the way she said
She got
she
stuck.
got stuck.
She got stuck. I stuck her, but she got stuck. Yeah, that was.
I had a student to tell me that same thing. She was arguing with the girl, and she told the girl, you need to go to the hospital because you got stuck. Not, I stabbed you, but you got stuck. Like, what does that mean? I'm not taking ownership for it?
No.
It's a
defensive thing,
You got what you started.
You got what you deserve.
You got what's coming to you.
When somebody has a death in their family, we say, oh, you have my sympathy, because they've suffered a great loss. But if I'm empathetic with you, no matter what feeling you're feeling, I'm trying to be there with you, to imagine what that is you're feeling and to respect whatever it is you're feeling, not judge it, just be there with you. That's being empathetic, opening yourself up to see what it is that person's experiencing and let it be. It's not that we become great writers, but that we become better listeners and trust each other more. That's what I'm hoping for.
Every summer, I go to Detroit, Michigan to see my mom. But my mom was on dope real bad. Real bad. Sometimes I go up there for the summer and didn't even see her the whole summer. If she was there more, or if my father was there more, I wouldn't have had no baby at 14. You know, I wouldn't have to raise myself because that's what happened. Thank you. A lot of things that she did reflected on my life. I don't talk about it. I'm a person that holds it. I hold everything. Whatever go wrong, I try to look at the good out of it and keep going.
When I put the script together, I'm hoping for stories that will humanize the women. I don't want them to be complainers. I discourage them from just writing lists of complaints. Nobody cares. You're in jail. You committed a crime.
I'm in jail for breaking the law. I know what I did and I know it was wrong. But some women in this place act like they're attorneys. They know everything I should do and could do and how it all works. I get tired of that. If they're so smart about the law, how come they couldn't figure out how to stay out of this jail?
My charge was felony forgery, 17 counts of felony forgery. Maybe I was behind on a light bill or my rent was behind and I was about to get evicted and I didn't have a job, so that was the only way I knew how to get it at that time.
I'm in here on a violation, an 8-year violation. I called another drug charge, a meth charge. I have a couple of meth charges, so I'm in here on an 8-year violation for a meth charge.
I violated parole for a drug charge. I mean, I could pretty much stay out of trouble because I haven't gotten any more trouble since 2005. That's when I originally caught this charge. It's just the papers, the probation, the parole, you know. I don't follow rules good.
My classes are mostly African American. Out of a class of 12, there may be 2 white women. If you are black in this community, and if you haven't had a lot of opportunity for education, if you get pregnant, you drop out of school, you're poor, the chances are good you're gonna get locked up sooner or later. It's a trap for poor black people. If little children visit their mom in jail every visiting day, the jail becomes a normal place, like the public library or your church. We go to jail every weekend and visit mom. And so that sets up in a child's mind that it's not that unusual and not really that negative to end up spending some time in jail.
Hey, all right. My grandmother's house, she had my other cousins living there. It was a small house. So me and my brother had to sleep together in the same bed. That was when my brother started fondling and molesting me when I was 9 years old. When I was 13, I became pregnant by my brother. From 13 to 15, I was a prostitute. When I was 17, I was pregnant by a trick. I went to the hospital, had another abortion.
Then I slipped again and started getting high. I had an unwanted child named Elijah. I abandoned him in the hospital because I didn't want him. He was a crack baby. I went back to jail. I got into a fight with this girl, and she called the police on me. And they found out that I had abandoned my child. I had an abandonment charge on me, so I had to do 6 months in jail for abandoning my child in the hospital.
My dad got so cussed at me and we lived alone for the next 3 years. I visit my mom every blue moon. I enjoyed the time with my siblings and I loved the time with my great-grandfather. My uncle taught me how to cook crack cocaine. I taught my brothers how to sell it. This was how we survived. We threw a party and the house got busted. I had my first child, a little girl. I named her Shania Alexandria Smith. I was a mom now and I didn't know what to do, so I went back to what I knew, fast money. When she was 5 months, I got pregnant with my second child and I was deep into what I did by that time. my birthday has come and I turned 24 in jail. I talked to my kids and they sung happy birthday to me and made me cry. I never had to spend a birthday in jail and it made me mad at myself. I have been here now for 4 months and I really want to go home.
I was particularly struck by the way you said, I would go to see my mom every blue moon. It made me think that there's a really nice poem in there about going to visit your mom. So I'm just going to put right here a little star. I'm going to put poem question mark. I mean, may or may not be. And seeing mom every blue moon.
I never live with you again. Just saw you every blue moon.
And after she finished, I said, oh my God, that is such a poem. I hope you'll go back to your room and write and call it Every Blue Moon. And that's what she came back with.
2001, my mother committed suicide and left my older sister to raise me. 2008 to 2010, I got kicked out of school for fighting. I started popping pills and smoking marijuana.
Her mother shot herself in front of her and her sisters, and when she said blood splattered on their faces. And I just been devastated ever since she told that little short story. I've lost a daughter. She was 3.5 years old when she passed away. She had metachromatic leukodystrophy, and it's a very rare disease, and it's no cure for it. It'll be 10 years this year, and it has, it's taken a long time for me. But for for someone's mother to shoot themselves in front of, her daughters, and the blood's, hit them in the face, it's just, I think about it all the time.
I am loved. I have a new beginning. I will not be a product of my past. I am smart. I can do all things through Christ.
So let's just hold that a minute. There are two parts to what I'm doing here. I hope that going into the jail helps to set women free in a certain way, in any way they can find to be free, personally and in the group. The other piece of what I'm trying to do is to build a bridge across the razor wire from inside the jail to those of us who live in the community. People complain all the time about how bad crime is in Memphis. And yet, we just seem to be in love with complaining about it. And I think if we begin to hear the stories of women who are in jail, we can have aha moments.
I knew how babies were made, but never thought it could be me. I was being molested for so many years.